I would discourage Americans from engaging in protests if, in fact, the former president is indicted.
There's a lot of speculation. The NYPD, they have deployment plans under all circumstances.
Do you support House Republican efforts to call Alvin Bragg up here and get him to testify?
I'm not going to get into what the House is doing there.
Welcome back. Another whirlwind week expected in New York and Washington.
Yeah, all eyes on the possible Trump indictment and the looming fallout. As it plays out, Congressman Brian Stile, one of 3 top Republicans this past week, writing to the Manhattan District Attorney demanding his testimony before Congress and calling the investigation and potential indictment, quote, an unprecedented abuse of prosecutorial authority, end quote, and accusing him of interfering in the 2024 presidential election. The DA firing back, rebuffing the calls to testify, saying it would interfere with a legitimate law enforcement investigation.
Let's bring in ABC News political director Rick Klein. Hey, Rick, good to see you like always.
Good to be with you, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the Congress and the demand for these documents and testimony from the district attorney, including from Congressman Stile. No matter how this plays out or what happens, is this going to happen?
Oh, I think they'll have some authority to get testimony, yes. The question about how heavy a hand they play in oversight on this is another one. Local prosecutors, state prosecutors, county prosecutors, in this case it's the borough of Manhattan, they have wide discretion to conduct their own investigations. It doesn't shield them from congressional oversight, but Congress doesn't get to tell a local elected prosecutor what to do. There'll be threats, there'll be questions about federal funding and how it's been used in this. Ultimately, though, I think any case, if it's brought, is going to have to stand on its own legs in its own jurisdiction with its own jury and its own system playing out. It's not going to be congressional oversight or members of Congress kind of peering over the shoulders of a prosecutor that'll make a difference.
Now, on this specific issue, Congressman Stile seems to be aligning politically or with former President Donald Trump. You know, he is expected to be a rising figure in the House of Representatives. What's at stake for him politically with aligning with the
I think
former
it's a big moment for him to show off his credentials, and if he's got other ambitions, to be able to ride this to something else. This has got the eyes of the country upon it. It's been a strange couple of days after the president, the former president, erroneously predicted his own arrest on this past Tuesday. We're all waiting on something that may or may not happen. And I think it's an opportunity for anyone with national ambitions or further statewide ambitions to make a name for his or herself and to be out there leading the charge. In this case, for Republicans, it truly is to show some loyalty to the MAGA movement, because whatever you think of Trump, Republicans are pretty united at this moment, at least, in thinking that any potential prosecution of Trump on this set of charges related to the Stormy Daniels case would be politically motivated.
All right, Rick, this could go in a number of directions in the coming days with the potential indictment. What do we make of what is to come next, especially politically, when you look that the first Republican primary debate here in Milwaukee is just several months away?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's a conventional wisdom that says that this makes Trump stronger. I'm not sure I buy into that. I think there's enough uncertainty in this field right now. You've seen Florida Governor DeSantis make a lot of moves that put him a little bit closer to running, including some not so veiled criticism of Trump for the involvement in this scandal in the first place. And I think there's lots of ambitious Republicans that want to remind voters, regardless of what you think of the prosecution, Trump brings a lot of baggage. This is one of only 3 or 4 different cases where he could face criminal charges. And the underlying allegation of hush money to a porn star right before the 26th election is exactly the kind of salacious scandal that Trump brings that other candidates might not. So I actually think there's a number of Republicans that might be in a position to take advantage of this, even if the prosecution doesn't come together or falls apart in some place. The idea of a former president under indictment, under criminal charges, under multiple criminal investigations as he runs for president is something that many Republicans will want to avoid.
Before we let you go, I do want to ask you about the Wisconsin State Supreme Court race. As we've reported, the most expensive state Supreme Court race in U.S. history. Is this an outlier, or is this really a game changer in what we're going to see from state races nationwide?
It's hard to imagine the same set of circumstances where you have an evenly divided court in an evenly divided state on the eve of what's going to be a closely contested election. And of course, the high stakes circumstances of a 19th century abortion law that could be enforced all over again. Those kind of make for a perfect storm right now in Wisconsin. And I'm sure your viewers are sick of all the ads. So I don't know that it gets replicated elsewhere. But this is probably the biggest race anywhere in the country in 2023 for its implications for a broad range of rights and big issues, as well as the potential for a very close 2024 presidential election.
All right, ABC News political director Rick Klein. Rick, thanks so much for your insight and perspective. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Up next, 9 days and counting.